Hi everyone and welcome back to the next in our series on provincial nominee programs. Today we're focusing on British Columbia, or BC as it's more commonly known. BC is one of Canada's most popular and desirable provinces to immigrate to, and with its temperate climate, incredible natural features, great cities, proximity to Seattle and an abundance of fantastic outdoor sports, it's easy to see why.
Let's start with a little bit about BC itself. It's Canada's westernmost province, sitting between the Pacific coast and the Rocky Mountains. The biggest city in BC is Vancouver, home to over 2.5 million people and host of the 2010 Winter Olympics. Also in BC, you will find the major ski resort of Whistler, the climbing mecca of Squamish, over 600 provincial parks, and the enormous Glacier National Park with its 400 glaciers and 140 kilometres of hiking trails.
British Columbia borders Yukon Territory to the north, Alberta to the east, and the American states of Washington, Idaho, and Montana to the south. Here's a little known fact. Did you know that at 31,000 square kilometres, Vancouver Island is almost half the size of Ireland and is the largest island on the west coast of North America?
So, we know that BC is a great place to live. Now let's get straight into how to move there. Today, we'll talk you through the available options in the BC Provincial Nominee Program, what the requirements are, the different programs available, and how to apply.
The BC Provincial Nominee Program offers 3 ways to become a permanent resident in BC. Each one has different categories within it, and the requirements for each category will depend on the skill level of your occupation, your job, or your student status. The 3 options offered by the BC PNP are the Skills Immigration Pathway, Express Entry BC, and Entrepreneur Immigration.
The Entrepreneur Immigration Regional Pilot Stream is still operating until at least March 2024, and this is for enterprising entrepreneurs who would like to start a new business in certain small participating communities across BC outside of large urban areas.
Click on the link in the description box below to find out more about the Entrepreneur Stream, as in today's video we're going to be focusing on the skilled immigrant and graduate pathways to permanent residence, which are the most popular routes and will be of most interest for the vast majority of our viewers.
The Skills Immigration Pathway is for skilled and semi-skilled workers whose occupations are in high demand in BC. Like many immigration programs, the Skills Immigration Pathway is a point-based system where applicants are invited to apply. In particular, this program is looking for workers in professional, management or technical occupations, as well as those in trades or other skilled occupations.
First things first, the Skills Immigration Pathway requires a job offer. The first step in qualifying for the program is that you must have accepted a valid job offer from a BC employer, along with having the relevant training and the experience to do the job. The job must be full-time and permanent from a BC employer and classified as Skill Type 0 or Skill Level A or B in the National Occupational Classification.
So, to explain this a bit further, a National Occupational Classification, or NOC, defines each occupation as a particular skill level or skill type. To find out which NOC your experience comes under, click on the link in the description box below. Here you can type in your occupation, and you can see how it's classified as a skill type 0 or as a skill level A to D. As an example, an accountant comes under NOC 1111 skills level A, and a carpenter would be classified as NOC 7271 skill level B.
Other requirements for the Skills Immigration Pathway are that applicants must have at least 2 years of directly related work experience and must be able to show that they can support themselves and any dependents that come with them. And those in NOC Skill Level B occupations must meet the minimum language requirements.
The Skills Immigration Program also has an entry-level and semi-skilled category, which is a way for workers in a tourism, hospitality, long-haul trucking or food processing occupation to gain permanent residence in BC. To qualify for this program, you must have accepted a full-time permanent job from a BC employer in a specific occupation in tourism, hospitality, long-haul trucking or the food processing industry.
Specifically for the North East Development region of BC, you can apply in any National Occupation Classification of Skill Level C or D, not just the occupations that we just mentioned. See the link below to find out where the North East Development regions are, and for this program you must meet the minimum language and education requirements and have been working full-time for your employer for a minimum of 9 consecutive months before applying for the program.
To start the process, you must first register with the BC Skills Immigration Registration System, which is a points-based registration and application system that helps BC select the best workers to meet labour market needs. Here, your job, your wages, your location, your education and your language ability will be assessed and reviewed against the BC labour market needs. This registration is free, but of course does not guarantee you selection. It's simply you expressing an interest in applying to the BC PNP. See the link below for how to create a profile and register with BC Skills Immigration Registration System.
Now, after submitting your registration, you will receive a score based on a variety of factors such as your skills, your education, your job offer. For example, if your occupation is in high demand or if you have strong language skills, you will be awarded more points. With this points total, you will be entered into a selection pool with other candidates, and you will stay in this pool for 12 months or until you receive an invitation to apply, whichever comes first.
Periodically, the BC PNP conducts a draw and invites the highest scoring applicants in the pool to apply for permanent residence under the skills immigration stream. If you're invited to apply, you have 30 calendar days from the date of invitation to submit a complete application via the BC PNP online. If your score is not high enough to get selected, there are a number of ways in which you can try to increase your score, such as improving your language skills or gaining further education or qualifications.
The processing fee for the application is $1,150. Once it's submitted, the application will be assessed, and if it's approved, you will receive a provincial nomination that you can then use to apply for permanent residence.
Moving on to the Express Entry BC routes, these pathways are linked to the Federal Express Entry system, which speeds up the permanent resident process for eligible applicants. There are 4 categories for moving to BC through Express Entry BC, and as the title suggests, all applicants must first meet the minimum criteria for one of the 3 Federal Express Entry programs, which are the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Federal Skilled Trades Program, and the Canadian Experience Class. You must already have an active Express Entry profile with a profile number and a job seeker validation code before you can apply to any of the programs within Express Entry BC.
If you are just starting out on your immigration journey and do not yet have an Express Entry profile, you can use the tool on the IRCC website to answer a few questions and find out whether you meet the criteria for any of the 3 programs. We've included the links in the description box below for the tool to check your eligibility and a detailed breakdown of the requirements for each of these Express Entry programs.
Once you have an active Express Entry profile, the first of the 4 BC Express Entry categories is immigrating as a skilled worker. To qualify under this category, you must have accepted a full-time permanent job from a BC employer. As with the Skills Immigration Program, the job must be in a National Occupational Classification Skilled Occupation Skill Type 0 or Skill Level A or B.
You must also qualify to work in your job in BC, which may require further training or certification. You need at least 2 years of directly work-related experience, and you need to be able to prove that you can support yourself and any dependents and meet the minimum language requirements in English or French for the relevant Express Entry category. These language levels differ depending on whether you apply as a federal skilled worker, a federal skilled tradesperson, or through the Canadian Experience Class. So make sure you look at the links below to check the language requirement for your chosen category.
The process starts by you creating a profile online and submitting a registration with the Skills Immigration Registration System. Through this, the BC PNP can assess your job offer, location, education, language ability and wage, and review it against the province's labour needs. After submitting your registration, you'll receive a score based on your skills and job offer. This puts you into a selection pool of candidates, and you can stay in the pool for up to 12 months or until you receive an invitation to apply. Periodically, people with the highest scores are invited to apply through the BC PNP online.
If you are invited to apply, you have up to 30 days from the date of invitation to submit a complete application via BC PNP online, along with $1,150 registration fee. The application is assessed, and if it's approved, you will get your provincial nomination, which will give you those magic 600 extra CRS points and means you can apply for permanent residence through the Express Entry system.
The second category in the Express Entry BC pathway is immigrating as a healthcare professional. British Columbia desperately needs more healthcare professionals, which is why there is a separate pathway specifically for them. This pathway helps physicians, specialists, nurses and health professionals from other countries work in BC and gain permanent residence in Canada.
As with the Skilled Worker Program, all healthcare applicants must first meet the minimum criteria for one of the 3 Federal Express Entry programs: the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Federal Skilled Trades Program, and the Canadian Experience Class. You must also have either the support of a public health authority or a full-time permanent job offer as a physician, a specialist, a registered nurse or a psychiatric nurse, or a nurse practitioner, an allied health professional such as a diagnostic medical sonographer, a clinical pharmacist, a medical laboratory technologist, a medical radiation technologist, an occupation therapist, or a physiotherapist. Midwives must have a letter of confirmation from an established practice group in BC.
Again, as with the Skilled Worker Program, you must also qualify to work in your job in BC, which might require further training or certification. You need at least 2 years of directly related work experience. You need to be able to prove that you can support yourself and any dependents and meet the minimum language requirements in English or French for the relevant Express Entry category.
The application process for the healthcare professional stream is simpler than the Skilled Worker Program, as applicants don't have to first register with the Skills Immigration Registration System or wait for an invitation to apply. Healthcare professionals can create a profile with the BC PNP online and submit an application directly through the website. If the application is successful, you will receive a provincial nomination which you can use to apply for permanent residence through the Express Entry system.
The final 2 categories in the BC Express Entry route are both study-based programs. The International Graduate Program is for applicants who've recently completed a degree, diploma or certificate from an eligible post-secondary institution in Canada in the past 3 years and would like to continue their career in BC.
As with the previous 2 Express Entry programs, to be eligible for the International Graduate Program, you must first meet the minimum criteria for one of the 3 Federal Express Entry programs, which again, to remind you, are Federal Skilled Worker, Federal Skilled Trades, or the Canadian Experience Class. Again, the links for all of these are in the description box below.
You must have accepted a full-time permanent job offer from a BC employer in a skilled occupation of skill type 0 or skill level A or B. You must also qualify to work in your job in BC, be able to prove you can support yourself and any dependents, and meet the minimum language requirements in French or English for the relevant Express Entry category. However, under this stream there is no work experience requirement at all.
The application process is the same as the Skilled Worker stream, by first creating a profile online and submitting a registration with the Skills Immigration Registration System. The BC PNP will then assess your job offer, location, education, language ability and your wage, and review it against the labour market needs. If you receive a score high enough, you will be invited to apply through the BC PNP online, and if your application is approved, you will receive your provincial nomination.
The final Express Entry category is the International Postgraduate Program, which is a little more specific in that applicants need to have a graduate degree in the sciences from an eligible BC institution. To be eligible, you must have graduated in the last 3 years with a Master's or a PhD in the natural, applied or health sciences, namely agriculture, biological and biomedical sciences, computer and information sciences, and support services, engineering technology, health professions and related clinical sciences, mathematics and statistics, natural resources, conservation and research, and physical sciences.
As with all the Express Entry linked programs, to be eligible for the International Postgraduate Program, you must first meet the minimum criteria for one of the 3 Federal Express Entry programs. And you must demonstrate your intent and ability to live in BC. But the great news for this program is that there is no work experience requirement and you do not need a BC job offer to apply.
Similar to the Healthcare Professional Program, applicants for the International Postgraduate Program do not need to register with the Skills Immigration Registration System or wait for an invitation. You simply need to create a profile with BC PNP online and submit an Express Entry BC application directly. If your application is successful, you will receive a provincial nomination and use it to apply for Canadian permanent residence.
Something to be aware of here is that a nomination by the BC PNP does not authorise you to work while your application is being processed. If you want to work in BC while you wait for your permanent residence to be approved, you will need to apply separately for a work permit.
Okay, Hopefully that's given you some useful information about the options available in the BC Provincial Nominee Program and helped you decide whether BC is the province for you. Are you considering moving to BC or wondering about the process for provincial nominations? Get in touch and let us know, and of course pop any questions into the comments box below.